I left my job at the church full time and I opened my first office. 10 years later, we were making $1 million a year. Paid off all of our debt. A couple of years ago, we sold that first business in a multi-8-figure transaction.
Wow.
Just unbelievable that I started it to make $250 a month and it ended up being a $40 million deal to us. You're not going to have a positive experience with money when you have a negative mindset towards it. And a lot of people have been taught to see money as negative or bad in some ways.
Especially in the church.
Generally, the least educated are the most vocal, right? And
That is so good.
we don't have very much money. We haven't served very many people. So you could be a terrible, evil person, and all you care about is money. But the only way you get it here is to help God's people.
Wow.
To serve them in some valuable, needed way. You can't serve God in money.
Yes.
That's pretty clear. The best way to not serve money is have money serve you.
Welcome to the Faith Hustle Podcast, where we help young Christian entrepreneurs learn how to build their business and careers God's way. My name is Prukner. I'm your host, and I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years. And through that time, I've been blessed to have incredible mentors and business owners that were not just successful in what they did, but they're successful in their family life, in their faith, and in everything in between. And that's what we're trying to strive for here, of a holistic view of success. And we really teach on 5 different pillars here. We teach on stewardship, we teach on humility, on integrity, on being spirit-led, and generosity. And so if those things resonate with you, if that's something that you're also trying to grow in, we encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel or anywhere you listen on audio. We would love to go on this journey together with you. Also, if this podcast has been a blessing to you at all, we encourage you to leave a review. It helps us to get this message, this podcast, out to more people. So thank you. And on today's episode, we are not in Dallas, Texas, and in a studio. We are mobile today in Southwest Florida with my friend, actually a longtime friend. We've known each other for quite a while, Ian Prukner. Thank you, brother.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for letting us be in your home.
Hey, welcome. It's easy.
He's got shoes off. Yeah, he just popped up. He was ready. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, no, seriously, so honored that, that we're doing this together. I've looked up to you for many years. We went to the same church, and I went to that church for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And it was a blessing to me. And we're going to get into your story. You used to be a worship leader there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's awesome to see what God's done. And so I want to get honestly right into it.
Sure.
And I love for you to tell the story, because I think it's fascinating. I've heard you tell it before, but I think it's honestly, it never ceases to amaze me, like the journeys that God brings us through. And like, especially if someone's watching, they're like, well, I couldn't obtain that or do that because maybe I work at a church, or I work at a low salary job or low paying job.
Sure.
I'd love for you to tell that story of like the beginnings of where you started from and kind of up to now. And then obviously we're going to dance around some different subjects and topics, but yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, so I mean, 20 years ago, my life was really different than it is today. I was not an entrepreneur, never been in business, didn't know anybody in business. I was a college student and a professional musician. So if anybody watching this knows musicians, if we can make enough money to survive playing music, we're like the happiest people on earth. And that was me, right?
Yeah.
And so I played in bands and I taught music lessons, and I was a worship director for a church. I actually got saved at 19 years old in a little storefront church with 40 people in it next to a bingo hall in Madison Heights, Michigan. And prior to that, like, I saw churches sort of like this place where you went to be nice to the old people and eat cookies afterwards, right? Like, I didn't know much about it. But through a series of things in my life, I ended up being in a pretty low place and searching, and ended up giving my life to the Lord in this little storefront church. Well, there's 40 people at it, so it took them all of about 3 weeks before I became the worship leader there, right? Because
like,
I was a professional musician, right? So like I didn't know anything about the Lord, but I was a lot better than their guy, right? And so all of a sudden I'm leading worship, and that was fun and new and exciting for me. And so I sort of jumped into that like I do everything in my life, 110%, learned, got really close to the pastor, and just dove in and learned as much as I could. And I really, really enjoyed it. I met my wife at that church.
Oh, wow.
We got married super young, 21 and 22.
Come on.
And I thought I was going to be a worship director for the rest of my life. I absolutely loved it. It wasn't a job, it was a calling.
Yeah.
And it was something I really, really enjoyed. And so we were at this little storefront church. It grew somewhat. And then we actually got a job offer to come in and do music for a brand new college program at the church where you and I connected at. Yeah. And so I came over there and I started building that program with some of the guys that were leading that, and it took off and it grew really, really quickly. And my boss at the church, his name was Stephen, came to me one day and said, hey, they're looking to make a full change here for the main church. We'd like you to do that. And so I thought, man, this is amazing. Let's do it. So I was part-time there. I went full-time there, and really affluent area, right, in Detroit. All the new money's out there. And I didn't know anybody who had a lot of money. My parents grew up really middle class. They still live in the same 900 square foot house that I grew up in Royal Oak. And so I thought, well, this is great. Like, you know, I need to make about 40 grand a year to be okay.
Right.
And they hired me in at 30. They said, we'll start you at 30. We're in a building program. We'll try to get you to 40 in the next year, and you can keep doing your other stuff. So we accepted, and we started working full time there. And I kept my job teaching music, and I kept singing at weddings and funerals and whatever else people would pay me to do.
Yeah,
right?
Literally.
And about 6 months in, I got called into my boss's office one day. His name was Steven. He was a year older than me, so he was really young at the time, but he was super smart. He was one of the smartest people I've ever met. He'd bought and sold a couple of businesses in his teens, and was super well connected, just like genius level guy, right? And I got called into his office one day, and Jessica, my wife, actually worked for the church too. She was the receptionist. So I walked by her and I was giving her the thumbs up, like, I'm gonna get my raise, right? Like they've been seeing all the extra that I've been doing. And he sat me down. I don't know if you've ever sat in a room where they're about to drop a bomb on you, but you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. Something was just off. Something was awry. I didn't know what was about to happen. And he looked at me and he said, Ian, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but the church is not doing well financially. And effective, immediately, we're cutting everybody's pay by 10%. And I'm really sorry to tell you that, and I'm gonna try to get you some time off to make that up. And I was like, Steven, I don't need the time off. I need the income, right? Like, I'm already working other jobs, right? Like, I don't need more time. I need more money. And so I was making 30 grand a year. And so that 10% pay cut was $3 grand, $250 a month. And we were on thin ice, McQuinda. Like, we didn't have any extra money. We had debt. We had no savings. And we were spending 100% of the money we were making because it was not very much. And we were in a pretty affluent area. And so we did the math, and I was going to be a couple $100 a month short next month. I needed to find a way to make extra money. And so I started, my antenna went up, right? Like, how do I make $250 a month? And the best idea I could come up with was I was going to be a night manager at Rite Aid for $14.55 an hour. And so I was going to work 3 midnight shifts, and after taxes and insurance and all the withholdings, I would make about $250 a month. So that's what I was going to do. And so about a week before I was supposed to start doing that, my boss, Steven, called me into his office, and he says, hey, are you still looking to make extra money? And I'm like, Steven.
You're the one that cut my pay.
With all due respect, because you're my boss, you see what you pay me here, right? Okay, that is the dumbest thing you've ever asked me. Of course I'm looking to make extra money. And he says something that changed my life. He says, well, there's this guy that goes to the church and he does this thing. That's what he called it. He says, he does this thing and you'd be good at it and you could do it part-time. You should go talk to him. I figured I couldn't make any less than I'm making here.
Right.
So what do I have to lose, right? So I called this guy up. It was a Wednesday afternoon in August of 2006. And I introduced myself. I'm like, hey man, I don't know you, but you definitely would know me. You see me on stage every Sunday. Steven told me you might have an opportunity. When can we chat? He says, how about in an hour? I said, okay, sounds good. So he gives me the address to his house. And I pull up to this guy's house, McQuinda, no joke, right? Like, I'm like, if this guy's not selling drugs to kids, I'm in. I'm in. I didn't care what it was. He had this big castle-looking house on the lake, right? Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, a big castle-looking house. And keep in mind, like, I didn't know anybody that had any money. Nobody in my family had any money. And so I was smart enough to understand a fact that this man knew something that I did not about how to make money. And I figured I'd be foolish not to learn everything I can from him. And so he showed me what he was doing. I didn't know anything about it, never sold anything, didn't know anything about finance, but he said, I'll give you a chance and I'll teach you. And so it was a couple $100 to get the licensing at the time, and I didn't have any money at all. And so I'm like, well, if half of what this guy's saying is true, I've got to be smart enough to make a couple of $100 a month doing this. I'm going to try. So I called my wife at the church on the church line. So I called her at the church. I said, hey, I'm going to start this thing with this guy that goes. She said, oh, that's great. I said, it's a couple $100. I'm going to put it on the credit card. She says, no, please don't do that. And I'm like, well, I already did, but I promise I'll make it back. And I hung up. She was so pissed, McKenna. She was so upset. And because we needed money, not to be spending money, right? But I just felt like, gosh, I've got to give this a shot. So I started, and my goal was to make $250 a month. That was why I began that, right? And honestly, just got a little carried away over the last 20 years. Just got a little out of control, right?
Exactly.
But that's why I started. In my first 4 months, I made $1,000 a month, part-time. And to me, that was life-changing. I was rich. I mean, I made my $250 and I had $750 positive. It's amazing, right? And I thought, I couldn't imagine anything better than this. And so that was what I was going to do. I had no desire to ever be a full-time entrepreneur, ever be in business full-time. I thought this was my spare time gig, and the worship leading was what I was going to do. And so through another set of circumstances and a staff person leaving the church and some commotion there, I ended up learning a tough lesson. And that was that when push came to shove, that nobody's going to take care of you but you. And I came to realize that, like, the church had great intentions, but they needed to pay their bills. They needed to keep the lights on. They needed to stay open for the people they were serving. And so when push came to shove, it was them over me, right? And it was a tough lesson for me to learn at the time, right? Like, a lot of people would have maybe been offended by that or upset. I was never those things because I could see from their perspective, like, look, you can't pay me and then shut the doors. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like, you got to prioritize things. But it left me in a really tough spot. But luckily, I had started this thing on the side, right? And then I was making reasonable money on the side. And I thought, well, if I put more time into this, I could probably be successful. So I called my mentor. I said, what do I need to do to be able to do this full time? And he gave me sort of a prescription of sorts of like, do this, do this, do this. And so I set my target 6 months out. I said, I'm gonna open my first office. I'm gonna do this full time, starting in June of 2007. And so I put my head down, I went to work, essentially 2 full-time jobs, my full-time job at the church, and then I treated the business like a full-time job. And 6 months in, I left my job at the church full-time, and I opened my first office exactly like I had said that I was going to. And I never looked back. I actually stayed on for a couple of years for free, just as a layperson leading worship. But I told them, like, hey, guys, I can't come to staff meetings. I can't run rehearsals, but I'll perform. You just got to build the bands and stuff. And so that business just took off. 10 years later, we were making $1 million a year in recurring income. We had paid off all of our debt. We'd saved $1 million plus in cash. And like, life had just totally changed. And at that point, I started, like, I was just bored, you know? I was like, hey, I've mastered this. And what am I going to do now? So I wrote a book, and I started teaching lessons on what I had learned along the way. And what I found was there was a huge market for that. People wanted it. It was a highly demanded thing. So I started doing that, investing in other things, starting some other businesses. And today, a couple of years ago, we sold that first business in a multi-8-figure transaction. We were the sole owners of it. It was just unbelievable that I started it to make $250 a month, and it ended up being a $40 million deal to us. Over those years, and it was really amazing. And so now we run a couple of our businesses, and Bella's coming to say hello.
Joining the podcast.
Right, this is Bella. Bella is the most annoying dog you'll ever meet, and she barks at me every day when I walk into the house, even though I live here. This is my house, and you're just in it.
If you're listening to audio,
you're just in it. Okay.
We got a little
chihuahua,
a
little furry chihuahua. Bella's gonna come back and visit later. We'll see.
I know.
You never know what's going to happen, right?
I know.
So, so we run a couple of businesses now, and I do a lot of coaching, consulting, training, and hanging out with the kids and the wife, and really living the dream that we had in our heart all those years ago when we started on that path.
One of the things that blows me away by that, and I think for those watching that you can pinpoint from, is humility. That's one of the pillars at Faith Hustle that we're trying to build in people and instill in people. Like, it takes a great amount of humility. And it's actually, and I'd love for you to go into this, of how sometimes, we want whatever goal, whatever achievement we're trying to get to, but sometimes it's like, it's pride itself that kind of keeps us from learning something new, or humbling ourselves down to be like, hey, show me what you don't know. Because I've seen people who are like, like, oh, I got it figured out. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. And they just keep telling themselves that rather than being like, you could just ask someone who's done it
Yeah.
before instead of trying to, act like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to go into that because that's the storyline I see in here. Like you're like, hey, show me what I don't know.
Yeah.
Tell me the steps how you did this.
Sure. So I think people's ego is not their amigo. It gets in their way quite a bit, right? And a lot of people are forget even not receptive to people that know things that they don't. But our culture teaches you to hate people that have what you don't, and you should be offended by them and dislike them, and they're evil and bad, and you should be careful. And I never felt that way. And so many people are offended by the people they should be learning from. And we've got to just humble ourselves and understand, like, hey, look, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And our very best thinking and our very best believing and our very best actions and behaviors have gotten us where we are today.
Yeah.
And so if that's a great place, that's amazing. Keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
But if you're broke and unhappy and struggling like I was, something is wrong.
Yes.
With what you think and how you act. And people don't want that to be true.
Yeah.
They want it to be outside of them.
Right.
They want to fix the world around them instead of fixing the world inside of them, right? But internal victories will always precede external ones. And
good.
One of the things that I can look back at an inflection point was being humble enough to say, look, I don't know what you're doing, but I know you know more than I do.
Right.
And I should learn from you. Even if I don't care to do what you're doing, I'm going to be richer from the knowledge that I acquired from you. And who wouldn't want that, right? But people are more interested in what they are able to get than what they're able to give or the process. They just want to bypass the process and get to the prize. But the process is what determines who's eligible for the prize, right?
Wow.
And so humility is a big thing. And look, I mean, I don't always get it right. And I probably, especially early in my career when I first started having a lot of success, probably wasn't the most humble person all of the time. But what I've learned is there's always somebody better, bigger, faster, smarter. And at the end of the day, this isn't our show. This is God's show, and we're just in it, right? And so when you remember that, it's easy to not take yourself so seriously all the time, right? And so that's been something I've had to work on a lot over the years, but it's helped me, right? I want to learn from you.
Yes.
One of the things two things that I was taught is I can learn something from everybody, right? No matter who they are, the janitor or the CEO has something to teach me.
Yes.
And I'd be a fool to not get that from them. I'm already with you.
Yeah.
I might as well be learning from you, right?
Ooh.
And the second thing that I was taught is that there's a seed of truth inside of every grain of criticism. And that is especially hard to deal with for leaders. But it's true, right? That even people who don't understand you and are way off base in their critiques, and that is a great many people sometimes, right? Generally, the least educated are the most vocal, right? And
that is so good.
yeah, and
It's true.
right, and it's like, okay, you're a special sort of something, aren't you? Right? But even those people, and even as off base as some of that criticism can be, somewhere in there's a grain of truth. They felt that way for a reason.
Yeah.
And even if that reason is completely illegitimate and doesn't make any sense, they still felt it.
Yeah.
Because of you.
Right.
And what can I take from that so that the next time
Right.
I'm with somebody like you, or even you, I can avoid that pitfall.
Right.
And I can build you up instead of being a stumbling block for you.
Right.
And that's a different level of responsibility, right? Well, I didn't say that. You took that. It's your problem. Okay, that's fine, but that doesn't solve the problem, does
Right,
it?
right.
One of us got to stand up and lead here. And it ain't
Right.
going to be you. You're too busy complaining. So I guess that leaves me.
Yeah.
I guess that leaves me.
Yeah.
And so those things have helped me to keep that sort of humble, teachable openness.
Yeah.
And that's one of the number one traits of any leader. I was actually really blessed to be able to spend some time with John Maxwell.
Wow.
About a month ago.
Come on.
And somebody had asked him, they said, what are the top 5 things you look for in people you want to personally mentor? And the first thing he said was teachability, coachability, right? I'm going to listen not to tell you what I know, but I'm going to listen because if all I leave is with what I know, I didn't get any better. I already knew all those things. I came here to get what you know.
Yes.
That's how I get better and progress.
Yeah.
And so that's for me has always been a key component of any sort of success is, hey, look, you're as far as you're ever going to get knowing what you know right now.
Yeah.
You got to get better.
That's so good. I mean, I want to go so many different ways. I often say this on the podcast that I feel like it's selfish because I just get to talk to people that I want to talk to talk
I
to.
feel the same way. I always get more out of them than I give.
Oh yeah, but one of the things that stood out to me is like, I think we can have a tendency, we would rather be right than change.
Sure.
Because changing is hard, but like wanting to like act like we're right can be, and I actually, Dominic Russo, well, not Junior, Joseph, that we both know. I remember in a message he said this. He said, when you ask the right questions, you get presented in the presence of the right people. And he used the analogy of David of like kept asking the question, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that stands before the people of God? He was the only one asking the question. Like everybody saw what was happening. They saw Goliath, saying all these terrible things, but it was only him that said, hey, we got to do something about this. And it brought him to Saul. And Saul wasn't even willing to do it. And so it's just awesome that like having that posture of heart, like it's almost like that posture of that humility, asking questions, being willing to learn from anyone. That's the like posture or the soil in which growth can come and all those different things. And that's so good. Personally, I'm very interested how you transition, because like you said, you mentioned you didn't grow up around money. You didn't grow up around, that affluence and all those different things. How did you make that mental pivot? Because I think sometimes like we want the mechanism, okay, how? Just give me like this.
Yeah.
Even if you were to give me the how, that doesn't mean I have the courage to do it. Or
the capacity to keep it.
Yes. What was that process for you to shift that? Because again, for someone watching, they may want that. They're starting, but they're like, hey, this isn't, I don't know how to get there. What was that process for you?
Yeah, so first of all, it is a process, which is unfortunate because that's followed by a 4-letter dirty word to the entrepreneur, and that's time, T-I-M-E, right? Like we all want it yesterday.
Yeah.
But great things come about as a process and over time, right? And so my mindset with money changed and continues to change and evolve as I grow and evolve, right? But a couple of things that I think are really fundamental. You're not going to have a positive experience with money when you have a negative mindset towards it. And a lot of people have been taught to see money as negative or bad in some ways.
Especially in the church.
Yeah, and look, there are, hey, it's easier for a camel to enter through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay, that's a pretty strong assertion here, right? And a caution against wealth. But a critical thinker will ask questions about that.
Right.
Okay, well, what does that mean, right? Because if that means that you can't get into heaven because you're wealthy, then that seems to me like money is more powerful than the Lord.
Right.
Since that's the gatekeeper.
Right.
If that's true, then I guess we just forget about this Jesus fella and we're worshiping the wrong thing. And let's go get some Benjamins and worship those, right? But that can't be the case. Right. There must be something else around this that can give us some context, right? And so one of the things that I did is I did my own research. I wanted to understand, why do people feel this way? And what I found is there's a lot of reasons people feel this way, but generally the entities that want you to feel bad about money make their living off of you giving it to them, like the government, right? Like they take it from you. That's how they survive. And so, hey, if you don't like this and it's bad and you shouldn't want it and it's not really good, then you're a lot less resistant to the forceful taking of your assets, right? And so you gotta, and for whatever it's worth, listen, like we're big givers. We believe in God's spiritual principles of tithing and of sowing and reaping. Those are all good things, right? But our mindset about money is a big deal. And so learning what it is, how it works, and why it works was important for me. I had to ask tough questions. A lot of people look at their financial situation, say, well, I don't have very much. And so if money's bad, that must mean that I'm good because I don't have very much. And so problem solved. That's easy. Stay away from that and I'm okay. But that's not really true. In capitalism, one of the things that's so interesting about God and his systems, he's so smart. He's so much smarter than us, right? Yeah. In capitalism, you could be a greedy, terrible person, and all you care about is you and getting money. But unless you're stealing the money, somebody is willfully trading you their money for your service or your product or your knowledge or time. They say, McQuinda, I want what you have so bad, I'm willing to trade you my money for it. Would you make this
Right,
trade?
right.
And so if we don't have very much money, we haven't served very many people. People have not seen our skill set and our contribution is worth that
Right.
trade. And so in capitalism, the more money you're able to create, the more people you're serving.
Right.
And it's so interesting because you could be a terrible, evil person and all you care about is money. But the only way you get it here is to help God's people.
Wow.
To serve them in some valuable, needed way.
Yeah.
And the more you serve, the more you can get. It's the only way.
Wow.
Isn't that special? Isn't that something, right? He takes human hearts and nature and says, I got you.
Yeah.
I got a little safety net here for you all.
Yeah. And this is how, and you have to almost keep it tethered to that. But that's how it's all set up in the process. Like,
Absolutely.
And I think about it all the time of like, God's principles work whether you're saved or not saved.
I get that all. You see so many believers that are like, why are all these people who aren't believers doing well financially and I'm stuck? Well, hey, you can know the Lord and not listen to him.
Yes.
You can know the Lord and totally disobey his principles.
Yes.
And you cannot know him and blindly adhere to the principles he set up and get the results that he intended for us to have. One of the things that I had to reconcile, McQuinda, was how does God feel about you having money and money's position in your life? And the best thing that I could create as an understanding map for me is that God doesn't mind you having money as long as money doesn't have you.
Right.
Right? You can't serve God and money.
Yes.
That's pretty clear. Okay.
Yeah, the spirit of mammon,
The best way to not serve money is have money serve you. If money serves you, you're not in any danger of serving it. Right? And so if you can learn its principles and take mastery and dominion over it, if you can appreciate it, acknowledge it, own it, master it, and direct it, then it doesn't do those things to you.
Right.
And so one of the things that was most interesting that I found is the people who were so against having money actually had their lives ruled by money. They made every decision about when they're going to get up, where they're going to live, what their kids going to do, what they're going to do today. All of it was about that.
Right.
And it was like, hey, wait a second, there's a better way here. If you can get ahead of the money game, then you don't have to live in the money game.
Right.
And you start living life how you were probably intended to live it.
That is so good. It reminds me of something. My dad told me this story. This podcast, I reference my dad a lot because he's.
You got to get him on.
We got. Oh, I would love to. I would love to. It's going to happen. And when he told me a story once, he was talking with a guy, and he was like, "Man, I hate these prosperity preachers, or I hate this," and and like obviously there's some weird stuff within prosperity preaching, but he was just like, "I don't like prosperity at all." Or whatever.
I don't like the prosperity gospel. Well, it's. I want your soul to prosper, or to you to prosper, even as your soul prospers, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to, it's like just part of the package.
Right, yeah, no, it's
part of the package.
No, but the funny thing, he said, okay, let me test this. He said, let's pray. So he prayed, he said, God, I just ask you bless my brother with lack. Just like, let him suffer. And he's like, hold up. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, no, I don't want that. He's like, you just said you didn't want, he's like, your problem is just with certain people who have maybe gone to the extreme or abused it. But it's like, you pray for blessing for your family, for your work. So it's like, you don't have it's just, we've put these barriers around it.
For people who have kids watching, which one of you, your goal and prayer in life is that your kids struggle miserably?
Yeah.
And that their life's a disaster and that they can never get ahead. And that their entire life is ruled by other people's demands on their life. Which one of you dreams that for your kid?
Right.
Okay. Well, you're an earthly parent, and you don't want that for your kids. You have good dreams.
How much more?
How much more does our Father in heaven,
Yeah.
who controls all of it, have big dreams for us?
Right.
Right? That's just who he is.
Yeah. He's just kind like that. And I've seen it in my life where it's like, I just like, he'll just, even this vacation that we're on, vacation/work, I'm like, God, why would you do this? And he's just like, I'm just kind. I just love you. One of the things I want to get into, and I know we've kind of touched on it a bit, is, again, some people have the fear, oh, money's going to change me or all this other stuff. But for you personally, what's kept you tethered to the Lord and your relationship with God? Because, let's be honest, like, opportunities, platform, influence, you name it, it can come with temptations. You don't have to take it, but it can come with temptations. What's helped you tether it because I get, and I can even say this for my own self. There's sometimes I'm like, I pray that, it's like, oh, money won't change me, but more so that like I'll always stay rooted and grounded in the Lord, even in the heights of success and all these different things. What's done that for you?
Clarity about how things actually work. So money doesn't change people. Money exposes people, right? So it makes you more of what you already are. If you are a generous, kind person, you're going to do a lot of great with money. If you are rude and self-centered, then you'll be more egotistical. But money doesn't change anybody. It doesn't have that power. It's inanimate.
Yeah.
Right? It takes on the shape of its beholder, right? Okay. So that is a key truth that I've understood for a long time. I have absolutely zero risk of being changed by money. It's just going to let out what's already in there. So instead of worrying about how money might change me, I'd be better off worrying about how I might change me for the good to prepare for that. Or how I might have the Lord change me, right? So that I don't have to worry about it. But the money can't change you. It doesn't have that power. It doesn't possess it. A similar thought, an analogous thought, is the idea that money won't make me happy. Well, duh. It's not meant to make you happy. More than toasters are meant to drive you to work. Toasters make toast and cars drive you to work, and money helps you engage in commerce.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you happy. It's not an emotional need filler. But so many people look to it to do that and then are disappointed by it and think, well, see, I knew this all along.
Right.
Well, you were looking for it to do something it was never meant to do, and then it disappointed you, which is exactly what it should have done. You're the one that's wrong, not money. Money didn't do anything to you. You just had a wrong belief, and you took that to the extreme, right? And so by understanding some of these principles, then you can clearly look at what's going on around you, and you can make good judgments, right? I'm not really in danger of being changed by money. I am in danger of being exposed by money. So let's deal with the hard issues, regardless of the money, because they need to be dealt with one way or the other. The money just exposes it. A lot of people stay broke so they don't have to work on them. Right? It's like, hey, if I don't have the responsibility of managing much, then I don't have to grow to become the person who's entrusted with those
expected
things.
Of me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have the responsibility of having to choose for anything other than what I want right now. And that's glorious if you don't mind living a small life. But if you want to make kingdom impact, pretty soon you're going to have to learn how to manage the resources that the King has entrusted you with. Right? And so let's learn that. Let's learn those principles, and let's let God work in our life there.
That's so good. I heard a pastor say once, he said, when you don't understand the purpose of something, abuse is inevitable.
Absolutely.
And
so good.
It's like you're going to abuse something like,
when you don't know what it's used for.
Like for a car, if you're like, oh, I'm going to drive it in the ocean. It's like, it was not made for, if you ask the manufacturer, he would tell you it's meant for the road. And and we have to know what money's made for. So like you said, we're not serving it, it's serving us, it's serving people.
And we're not afraid of it.
See,
imagine one of the concepts, I actually, McQuinta created a course called Money Mindset Makeovers. All the things I learned about money that helped me learn how to deal with it appropriately in my life. And one of the things that I really wanted to dig into in that body of work was just understanding our emotions towards money. People are afraid of money. People feel negatively towards it. People talk badly about it, like your friend who was, well, I don't want to be the prosperity gospel. One of the concepts that I've really held on to is money won't go where it's not wanted, and it won't stay where it's not respected. Very similar to any other relationship in our lives. We have a relationship with money, and the quality of our relationship determines the quality of our life with that thing. And so what I always encourage people to do is I would tell them, imagine you felt and spoke about your spouse the same way you feel and speak about money. Well, you're not everything to me. There's more important things in life than you. You can't serve God and you in my life. So, I don't really need you anyways. You're not that important. I can't take you with me. How would your relationship go? Fellas, try that at home with your wife tonight, okay? Just tell her these things. I don't need you. There's more to life than you. Right? How would that relationship go? It wouldn't be positive.
At all,
you probably wouldn't have that relationship long. Well, that's why you don't have any money either. Because it says, I'm not interested in a relationship with you. I'm going to go down to Ian's house. He has a nice place for me. He treats me nice.
Yeah.
He deploys me in great projects
Yeah.
where I get to be fully used
Yeah.
to my capacity. But you just talk bad about me all day.
Wow.
It's like you don't even like me.
Wow.
It's like you don't even want me here.
Yeah.
Right? Well, no crap, man. Right? Like, I wouldn't stay either.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it doesn't stay. It comes and it leaves, right?
Wow.
Because you don't honor it, you don't respect it, and you don't treat it for what it is, right? Like, you are in a relationship with money, whether you like it or not. And how you are doing with that relationship, there's a scoreboard.
Yes.
It's called your bank account.
Yeah.
Okay, and look, I know there's a lot of people who don't like that. Like, I don't know, but life keeps score on us, whether we like to admit it or not.
Right.
It's keeping score.
Yeah.
Our marriage is keeping score. Are you still married?
Yeah.
Is it happy?
Right.
Is it fulfilling? That's a scoreboard.
Yes.
And if it's not where you want it to be, guess what? You need to run a different play.
Yes. Yeah.
Not just keep running the same play, hope the score changes.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm losing like crazy right now. Let's do more of the same.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
It literally reminds me of, the scripture where Jesus he went back to his hometown and he tried to do, he was doing ministry and people were like, isn't that Joseph's son?
Yeah, the carpenter.
And they literally familiarized him, and it said that he could do
no
miracles, only a small healings. And like that scripture still blows my mind to think that you could limit Jesus. And it's like when you don't honor something, you limit its capacity.
That's
and it's
right.
like I think it's the same principle. I think it's the same principle with money, with wealth, with opportunities,
relationships, people, health, everything in your life. What you honor and respect, you get more of.
Wow.
And what you disrespect and disdain, you repel.
Wow.
And so many people watching this are money repellents when they should be money attractors. It's just as good as gone. You might as well send it your way.
Yeah.
Right? It's just going to bypass you and go to somebody that has their head on straight about it.
Yeah.
And part of it too is God's goodness in our life.
Yes.
Because God won't give you what will destroy you. He knows. Man. And so some of you are praying for blessings right now that because of your lack of development in this area, the blessing would be a burden. It would actually break you.
Wow.
And so God loves you enough to not bring you that which you ask for which you're unprepared.
Yeah.
And rather, what do? We start preparing. See, I took an opportunity 20 years ago where I saw an opportunity to prepare. I don't know what I'm going to get out of it, but I could learn.
Yeah.
I could learn. And if I learn, I'll know. And if I know better, I'll do better.
Yeah.
And that will give me the framework to start building a foundation on. And people don't want that framework. They just want the stuff. It's like, well, God loves you too much to just give you the stuff without being the person that deserves and has the capacity to manage that which you're asking for.
I mean, that's the parable of the talents. He gave them talents to their ability.
Yep.
Gave 1, 2, 1. It wasn't less love or more love. It was, if I gave you more, you couldn't handle it. And so I'm going to give you this. And then from what you stored and multiply from this.
And if you want to have more, then you need to become more. And the great news is that more version of you, God already knows that. He made you in that way. And we need to develop that. And we need to find that. We need to uncover it and steward it.
So I actually, and I know I got 2 more questions as we're winding down. But one of them I was actually going to hit on. For someone that's just starting, again, a lot of people that even comment and ask questions, they're just starting their business. They're in their early stage. How do they tap into that to expand their capacity, right? And some of it, again, it could be sovereignly of what the Lord knows, but I do think, like you said, I believe that you have the ability to expand your capacity.
Absolutely.
Based on your environment.
God gave you a mind.
Yeah.
He gave you a heart. He gave you emotions, willpower, intellect. He gave you all those things. So funny, McQuinna, because so many people are waiting on God to do what they could do for themselves. And they never ask God to do what they can't do because they're so busy asking him for the simple things they could. There was a guy that I used to work with way back when in the church world. And one day he came to me and told me he's praying for an iPod. I'm asking the Lord for an iPod. I said, why don't you just go buy it? And that was like a foreign concept to him. You could just take his $249 and go get it.
Yeah.
He didn't need to ask God for it. God gave him an intellect, allowed him to serve people, and he was well able to go get it.
Yeah.
I'm like, why don't you ask God for something that you can't do? Right?
That's so good.
Why don't you ask him? Because, and a lot of times believers think that that's wrong. Like, I can do nothing apart from God. Okay. conceptually, that's true. We're
Yeah.
in his world here.
Yeah.
Right? I can speak to you right now because I have his breath in my lungs,
Yes.
period. It ain't mine.
Yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
put it here.
Exactly.
I have no right to. It doesn't belong
Yeah.
to me. However, he did give us equipment to use.
Yes.
Right? We don't need to ask God if we can cross the street. We
Yeah.
can use our eyes and our ears and see it's safe to cross. And imagine being a parent and your child's 33 years old and is calling you every 4 minutes asking you about what they should wear or if they can cross the street or what they should eat today. You'd be like, listen, son, I love you, okay?
You got this.
But brother, Tijuana Flats or McDonald's, you know what? That's on you today, son.
Yeah.
You pick.
Yeah.
Either way, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of believers, they want to relinquish their responsibilities and put them back on God.
Yes.
Instead of owning their responsibility, playing to the very edge of their capacity, and then asking God to expand their capacity when they've reached their limit. That's where God shows up. It's really clear. Paul talked about in our weaknesses, he's made strong.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Well, we got to get to the point where we're not good. And that's beyond the point where we are good. So we got to use what we got and then push a little further. And when we get to the end of ourselves, we get to the beginning of where God wants to meet us in our journey and to do the things that we can't do.
Wow. So the principle is, from my understanding, is to increase your capacity, you almost have to pray the right prayers. You almost have to do.
You have to be willing to go to a place where your capacity is tested. First
stretch
and
yourself.
foremost. Yeah, first and foremost. Where is my end? So I know where God needs to begin here for me to go any further.
That's good.
And most believers don't ever want to play at that level, right? They don't ever want to push themselves there. And
because it's work.
It's a lot of work, right? And beyond work, it constantly brings you back to who you are and who you're not, and it keeps you humble, right? Because if you're always playing at the edge of your capacity and on the borderline of failing, you constantly need God, and you're constantly reminded of how small and how limited you really are.
Yeah.
But when you only play in your strengths, when you only do the things that you know, that's where you have a tendency to fall into pride and an ego because you're really great at this thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's only because you haven't pushed beyond that to something that you're not great at yet.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So capacity is one of those things where it's like, look, you gotta figure out where you are and what you got. At some point in life, you gotta put it all out there on the line. You gotta be willing to fail and look stupid.
And I think that's it.
Yeah, look
that's
stupid.
That's the thing that people, because if I put myself out there.
Yeah, what are people gonna think of me?
What if it
I'd
doesn't
rather
work?
look rich than be rich, right? It's
Wow.
like, wait a second.
This is backwards. Yeah.
What? Right? I'd rather be rich than look rich,
Yes.
right? Okay, I'd rather be closet rich and you don't know nothing. And I'm just
Exactly.
enjoying it, right? Then look that way, but be wrong and live a lie, right? And that's a humility thing, right?
Yes.
Like that goes back to, and ultimately it's a selfishness and it's a self-reliance. Like I don't want to look bad because it's my reputation.
On the
and
line.
it's-
Yeah.
and it's like, wait a second here. This ain't your show, brother, right?
Yeah.
Like if God's asking you to do that, he's going to meet you there. But you got to be willing to go all the way and then some to that point, regardless of how you look and how you feel. And before you can be great, you got to be good. Before you can be good, you got to be bad. Before you can be bad, you got to begin.
Wow.
Right? Like that's your process always. There's no pathway that skirts you around that.
That's so good. It's funny, like even starting Faith Hustle, me and Jason, part of our kind of rule is it's just got to be good to post. It's got to be good to go. Like we are going to make improvements. We've made mistakes along the way, even on the production level or certain things like that. There's been scheduling it's like we just have to keep going.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's got to be good, but it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay.
So good.
Like we have to know our limits. We do what we can just to keep going, because if we wait until we're ready or we think
You're never going to be ready.
You're just never. You're just never going to. It's
Never going to be ready. You're never going to be prepared enough. It's never going to be good enough. Perfection is a disguise for procrastination for most people. Perfectionism, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh, it's got to be just right. It's never going to be just right.
Right.
Ever, ever, ever. So this is, right, hopefully you don't have a brand deal with Apple. This is an iPhone, right? It's an iPhone.
We're not there yet.
It's an iPhone 15. And in technology, this idea is called Scrum. and it revolves around a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
And so in technology, you get it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to work. You get it out, you put it in the market, and you get market feedback. What do consumers like? What do they not like? There's your next update.
Yeah.
Right? If Apple waited for things to be perfect, there would be no iPhone 15. This would be iPhone 1.
Yes.
It would just be coming out now. But it wouldn't be coming out now because they wouldn't have had 20 years of market research to know what people wanted. Right? You got to produce it, get it out there, and let the market drive your corrections.
Right.
Because it knows more than you do.
Yes.
Right?
And again, like, and it's never been easier to do that now. We have Kickstarter. We have all these things where you can just test. There's even websites you can put your idea in just to get feedback for free. Like but I think it's the fear, like you said, it's the reputation, right? That we don't want, we don't want to look bad. Like you said, we want to look rich, not be it.
We cultivate our image instead of our capacities, right? And we're doing the wrong thing when we're doing that.
Yeah.
Image is a byproduct. It's not the product.
Yeah. Okay, last question for you, and because I want to honor your time. Again, grateful that you're on, grateful you allowed us to be in your home. The one thing I respect about you genuinely, beyond business and investing and all the things you do, faith, is that you're a family man. As for myself, that's the vision that I have. It's like, it's not just, I got all these things going on. It's like, no, my family's coming with me. We're doing this together, and we are together, right? Like, I've seen your intentionality behind the scenes. I've seen, even with your son, of like investing in his health. You guys are with him and helping, and all these different, like, it's just beautiful. It's amazing. Especially in this, honestly, we're in a culture, in a world where families get put in the back burner.
Absolutely.
And it's like, no, like, it's you, it's your goals, it's your dreams, and your family is like you're doing it for them, but they get left to the side.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear how you've done that, what you've brought in, because again, with Faith Hustle, that's what we're trying to build within people. We're not just trying to build people who get a bunch of money. Like, I want someone that's watching this, they're 20 now, when they're 45, they have family and people who love and respect them and speak the highest of them.
Yeah.
What built that within you for that?
It's a process. It's progress. I'm not perfect. Far from perfect, but it is something that's mattered to me, right? So it's got to matter to you starting off. I've had great mentors. I've been around really solid teaching. I've watched the destruction of what people build. They're building something and then it gets torn down by letting that fall. So there's a lot of things. I've got a couple of things I want to say on this. So I have a coaching group, and in that group, we revolve ourselves around what I call 5 F's. And these are the 5, in my opinion, 5 most important things in our life: faith, family, fitness, finance, future self. These are the areas that we can't afford to get wrong. You get even one of these wrong, I don't care how good you are at the other 4, you're not winning.
Yeah.
You're not winning. It's not a win if you're winning in some and losing in others.
Yes.
Right? And so family is one of those things. I am not succeeding by my definition of success to have all the money in the world and lose my family. I'm not succeeding to have a 6-pack and my kids don't respect me.
Yeah.
Right? I've got to win in all those areas.
Yeah.
Otherwise, my win is incomplete, and the other wins lose their pull and their power because I'm being dragged down by this other idea.
Wow.
Right? So that has been a center point. Like, I have to get this right. I don't get a do-over.
Yeah.
These are the most important relationships in my life.
Yeah.
They impact and affect everything else in my life. They impact my money. They impact my health. They impact the state of me spiritually. I have to win here.
Yeah.
I don't get to choose otherwise.
Yeah.
And so if it's important to you, you make time for it. You make it a priority, period.
Yes.
So those things get scheduled in, and they stick in my schedule. And I don't cross over into those lines, right? Like, that's a big thing.
And that's a test too, because you have something on the calendar, big opportunity comes, right? It's like, hey, it's on that date, but you've already put like that. That's where I feel like that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, and there is, I want to be careful here, right? Because there's a lot of people who throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, I'm not going to pursue my dreams because it might conflict with my family. My family comes first. Okay, well, that's rarely going to happen. If you are a good steward of your time and you are good at prioritizing, you're rarely ever going to get in a place where A and B collide. And there's not a way to do A and B.
Right.
It's rarely or, it's almost always and. When it is or, if you have the right things in place, so MVP, minimum viable product, I had a certain amount of time every day that I would allocate in my schedule to my family. And if that is all the time I got that day, it would still be enough for that day to make the necessary contributions that I wanted to make, right? Wouldn't be optimal, but it would be viable. And so as long as I had that as my foundation, then I could be flexible. If there was a big opportunity here and something that collided, but I'm doing my dailies, then everybody understands. It's when you consistently neglect that becomes a challenge, right? It's when you consistently neglect it. The other thing that's interesting is this idea of balance, right? Like a lot of people have an issue with balance and they think balance primarily in time.
Right.
But if we were just looking at time, we'd all be out of balance. Primarily with sleeping. We'd look like sleep addicts. And then work, and then this, and then that, and then other things, right? But there are 3 dimensions of balance: time, resources, and emotion, right? And so sometimes when I couldn't be there with time, I could be there and show up extra in different ways. So like, let me give you an example. I might not have had 5 hours to sit on the couch and watch TV with these guys while I was building my business every night, like every other dad did. Right? Okay, but my 1 hour with my phone away, engaged with them and what they love to do, and being there in those moments, that was 100 times more valuable than 5 hours staring at a TV together.
They're not even talking to each other,
Right? So even though my time was at a minimum there, I could still show up differently and purposefully, and I could keep that balance by being aware that there were other things I could do. Like when I was building my business, I couldn't do a lot of like mission trips and other things. I just couldn't take that time away. It wasn't wise for me to take that time away. And a lot of my friends did. I had friends go out of business going on missions trips, right? And now, how many trips are they going on? Well, not many, because they don't have the resources, right? So I couldn't go, I didn't have the time, but I could resource. I could send. And I could send somebody better than I was. Are you building houses? I don't know nothing about building houses, but I'll send him, and this guy's a GC. He'll build all your houses, right? So I learned to approach problems from a solution perspective, not the problem perspective. This is a challenge. How do I meet this challenge creatively where it becomes a win-win for everybody involved?
That's so good.
So I approach the same thing with my family, right? One last thing I'll say there. One of my favorite definitions of success comes from John Maxwell. He says this is his personal definition of success, is that the people who know me best love and respect me most.
Man, I literally thought of that quote while you were talking about it.
So powerful. And to me, that has sat with me for a very long time. Because I have friends, the people that know them best know, I know what's really going on.
They know the good parts.
I know what's, and we all have challenges. Don't get me wrong there, right? But to me, that was important. I wanted the people who call me dad, who call me husband, to be my biggest fan.
Wow. Man.
That's what I wanted. And so I got to live in a way that is deserving of that. And if I'm not, then I shouldn't expect it. And if it's important to me, then I will. Right? We all do, LaQuinda, what we want to do. Ouch.
Yes.
Ouch.
That's
because
hard.
We all do what we really want to do. And that says a lot about our priorities. Says a lot about our selfishness. Says a lot about the things in our life that are out of order. Says a lot about our brokenness and our hangups, our own limitations and limited thinking. Says a whole lot about that. And most of us don't want to look at that. We just want to yell at everybody else. You're the problem. You're the problem. The news media, the schools, the government, my pastor, the prosperity preachers. Everybody's the problem except for me. And what I learned, probably the most valuable lesson that will summarize all of the other lessons, is I'm the problem and I'm also the solution. I'm creating the challenge, but I have the power to fix that challenge because I can change. I can grow. God himself, the creator, created us in this way with that power. And he asks us to use it as stewards of the time and talent that he's given us. And so for me, that's been the guiding principle that I've woken up with every day for 20 years. This day is not mine. It's a gift. This time is not mine. It's a gift. These people are not mine. This opportunity is not mine. I'm simply here as a steward. And I would be an unwise steward to believe that I could be a derelict of my duties and expect to keep getting more of those things. Right? If I won't love the people I have, why will I get more people? If I won't steward the money I have, why will I get more money? If I won't check my ego, why would I get more opportunity to have an ego? Right? I need to steward what I have, where I am right now. And if I can do that well, I start tomorrow stronger than I was today. Further ahead than I was today, with more opportunity than I had today. Every day we build on the day before. We don't start at zero, which is what everybody thinks. I'll just get it tomorrow. I can't wait for today to be over. Why?
Tomorrow's not promised.
Why can't you wait for today to be over? It's not over. You can do something about it now. You're still going to have to deal with your problem tomorrow. It's going to be there tomorrow, bro. It'll just be bigger because you waited. You let it grow, right? Deal with it. Deal with your stuff. Own it. And go to God for the things that you're short on, right? Being an entrepreneur is not easy. And people who tell you that it is are lying to you and trying to sell you something. It's not easy, but it's absolutely worth it. And it's an amazing journey that lets you learn about you and about God. I don't think there's anything you can do in your life that teaches you to rely more on the Lord than stepping out in faith for a dream that only you can see.
Man, that is, honestly, it's emotional. I get moved by it. We had a show not too long ago with Jamal Miller, and he, the scripture where it says a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children. He said that word inheritance is not just money, it's way of living. And I've never looked at that verse the same since, of like, what, it's not just, yes, resources, money so that they're taken care of, absolutely have that. But more than that, the way of living, that's your life poured out to someone else. And it's like, man, that's the time investment, that's the money, the emotional investment, all those things you mentioned of balance. That's what's in that
It's the stuff of life.
It's the stuff of life.
Yeah, one of my favorite sayings, and it sort of goes back to this idea, is that it's not as important what you leave to people as what you leave in people, right? And so what are you going to leave in them? It's great to give them things. It's better to teach them to get on their own. And how to live, and how to choose.
Because you just leave it to, there's a ton of people that leave their money to people and then it goes away, but they didn't leave anything in.
It's what you leave in. That equips and empowers people to live their life.
Man, so good. Ian, thank you. Thank you so
Quinn,
much.
It's been fun.
It's been awesome, man. I'm going to come back again. Will you have to come to Texas, but I like it here better.
But, me too. Nothing wrong with Texas, but you can't beat the ocean.
No. We don't got views like this. We got desert and flat land. And highways.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, man. Honestly,
appreciate you, brother.
It's an honor. Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Faith Hustle Podcast. We hope it encouraged you, equipped you, and got you ready for your faith hustle. If this is something that resonates with you and you want to join this community, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on YouTube or on any audio platform that you listen to. Also, subscribe to our email newsletter. We put out tips every week to help your business. And lastly, if this podcast has been any encouragement to you, we want to ask if you can leave a review for us. It really helps us to get to more people so more business owners can be impacted by the community and the message. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.